Alright, in this video we're going to talk about the swiveling double bass technique. If you don't know the floating double bass technique, I suggest you go back and watch that video first, because it's way easier to do this technique if you already have the floating technique down. In my opinion, this is just an extension of what I call the floating technique, wherein we add yet another component to it to make it a little bit easier at super high speeds. So starting from scratch and just trying to learn this is going to be difficult. If you already get that though, here we go. As you can see, I'm set up in my normal position, which is my heel is just ahead of my knee, and I'm going to be playing with the ball of my foot on the pedal, and I'm seated to where my thighs are about parallel with the floor. And what I'm going to do here is the floating motion looks like this. I'm going to take that motion from this direction and I'm going to start adding motion in this direction. So this is floating, this is swiveling. I'm still doing this with my ankle, but now I'm adding extra lateral motion. So this works because regular floating is in the Y dimension, and this is going to go in the X dimension. So because they're completely perpendicular to each other, they're going to cancel each other out, and you're not going to get any extra weird torque going on. They're not related. The analogy that I use is like it's a spiraling football in flight. The spiral actually makes it go faster and farther, whereas if you had wobble instead of spiral, that would be bad. So you got to make sure that the swivel is perpendicular to the angle that you're normally playing bass drum at. So here's the swivel technique with one foot. And it's very similar to what I can do with floating. But swiveling allows the heel and the calf and the knee to move around a little bit, much like the molar stroke for your hands. Getting that extra motion in there calms the muscles down and allows them to perform faster, longer than just constraining it. And a lot of complaints with the floating technique is that you don't feel like you get any power, and you don't feel like you're using enough range of motion. That's why people want to stomp with their leg. Well, this adds in extra power because you are physically moving your leg more, but you're applying that extra motion to the same amount of time, thereby creating extra power. So here's both feet together. Now when I'm doing it in a double bass context, typically what I strive for is to go one foot one way, the other foot that way, one foot back, the other foot back. At some point this will break down and they'll just kind of start going wherever they feel like at the moment. And if they aren't exactly synced, that's okay. As long as you're relaxed and allowing your feet to play naturally, that's okay. So if they aren't precisely doing this every time, that's fine. But that's kind of a starting point that you can use to work on the technique. Now a lot of people say that you can start by just twitching your foot on the pedal. But if you don't provide any actual input in this Y dimension, X dimension motion isn't going to translate into a nice solid powerful hit. So there does have to be still a little bit of this to go along with this. If you want to know more about this technique and many other double bass techniques, you can check out my book, Double Bass Drumming Explained, or check out my other videos on my channel. Thanks.